Happy Victory Monday, Broncos country. I don't think anyone's going to get tired of hearing the Broncos beat the Raiders 29-19 to finish their first season sweep of the Raiders since 2014 and their first win at Allegiant Stadium. So, after rewatching the game this morning, there are a couple of things that really jumped out to me the second time when watching the All 22, and I'm excited to share that with you guys on today's episode. But if you loved sweeping the Raiders, hit that sub button and hit that like button as well. I want to get to 28,000 subscribers by the end of the day, and I want to beat our November like record, which is 942 likes on a single video. So let's demolish both of those, just like how the Raiders were demolished by the Broncos for the second time this season. But Bo Nix continues to be the number one storyline, and deservingly so. I thought he didn't have his best stuff necessarily on Sunday, but man, even when he's maybe not on his A++ game, the Broncos offense still puts up 29 points, which really speaks volumes to just the overall improvement this team has made since week 1 to today. But two things in particular really jumped out to me when I was rewatching this game. The first thing is the way Bo Nix has handled pressure and specifically blitzes this year. Take this play right here. This is Bo Nix's first touchdown pass to Courtland Sutton right after the Brandon Jones interception. And there is a free rusher running right down the barrel, the worst place for a quarterback to get pressure from, up the middle. And Nix doesn't flinch. He doesn't blink. He doesn't hold on to it long, take a sack, deliver a poor pass. Nope. He puts it on the money for his guy, Courtland Sutton, to go up and get. I mean, we don't really see this very often from rookie quarterbacks. But Bo Nix, when facing the blitz this year, is just not blinking. The guy's not phased whatsoever. And that was not the only thing I really like seeing after rewatching some of the film. I meant to share this last week, but when you win by 32 points, no one really cares too much about the special teams. But when your kicker goes 5 for 5 on field goals, then you care a lot more about special teams. And I was curious what kind of adjustment the Broncos made with a certain someone after the Kansas City game. And what do you know, number 54, Alex Forsyth, not to just dump on the guy, has been moved on the field goal coverage or field goal blocking unit. And he is now, I don't know what position that is. I'll be honest with you guys, like third tackle, I guess, something like that, the extra lineman, but he is not where he was for the Chiefs game, if you're wondering. So an adjustment was made by the coaching staff on that side of things. But Bo Nix, like I was saying earlier, against the blitz this year, 913 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. Now, blitzing a quarterback is kind of a very loose term when talking about ways to pressure and be a bother to a quarterback, because anyone can blitz all they want, but blitzing is not a get-out-of-jail-free card when it comes to stopping the opposing offense, right? If you blitz too often, the opposing team will pick up on it, and they'll probably start getting the ball out quickly, and you're going to have a lot of one-on-one matchups on the back end, and that's not favorable for the defense. But usually when it comes to rookie quarterbacks, they're not great at reading defenses, feeling a blitz, and then knowing what to do with the ball when the blitz is on its way. Nix this year is 6th in the NFL in total times blitzed at 102. Now, these 6 quarterbacks are all blitzed at a high rate for different reasons. CJ Stroud is blitzed a lot because the offensive line is bad for Houston, so when it rains, it pours, right? But you got other cases where some quarterbacks, take Baker Mayfield, for example, may not do as well when the blitz is on its way, because that's usually a moment where you got to make a split-second decision, and that can lead to a bad decision. So Nix has been awesome when the blitz is coming his way. But another thing that he has really excelled at that has definitely caught me by surprise is his arm talent, right? We got Bo Nix being asked about from Sean Payton on throws over 10-plus yards, saying, quote, he said there are 0 coverage and blitzes we're going to lead to more deep throws versus the Raiders. Nix handled those well. I asked if Nix's arm looks stronger than when the Broncos worked him out back in March. Quote, No. Pundits' eyes were just weaker. I couldn't help but laugh. Great response. On the pundits' eyes, I mean, I was definitely hand up someone who is not fully in bed with drafting Bo Nix in round 1. I'm not trying to hide away from that. Very happy to take, all of the shit I need to eat, throw tomatoes at me, all that good stuff in the chat. But my biggest concern for Bo Nix coming out of Oregon was he was a check down Charlie. I mean, that's what he was in Eugene. Now, that does not always mean it's going to be the same in the NFL, and clearly we are seeing that unfold right now. But go back in time with me for just a brief moment here. This was the exact graphic we used for months leading up to the NFL draft for Bo Nix's draft profile, and his 6.9 average depth of target, meaning when he released the football, the player he was throwing to was on average 7 yards from the line of scrimmage. That's relatively low compared to other quarterbacks in college, and then once you get to the NFL. Now, look at him in the pros. His average depth of target is 7.6, so he's pushing the ball down the field a little bit more. And that's not a seismic difference, but when you stretch that over a large sample size, even if it's just 0.7 yards, that's 0.7 yards multiplied by all the attempts he has in every single game he plays, and that's going to be a big number after it starts to snowball a little bit. But look at some of the other advanced stats here. I mean, intended air yards. What does that mean in English? Intended air yards mean whether the pass was completed or not. How far has the ball traveled when Bo Nix throws it? Sometimes you can get 100 yards by just dumping it off to your running back at the 1-yard line, and they run it all the way. Other times you get 100 yards by throwing it 70 yards down the field. The player catches it, and they run for 30 yards after the catch, right? There are different ways you can accumulate all the yards, of course. Do you just dump it off short, and the receiver, the running back, does the rest of the work? Or of the 50 yards picked up in a pass where all 50 through the air and the player caught it and went out of bounds immediately? So, Bo Nix intended air yards is third. The guy is not just a dink and dunk quarterback. Don't let someone who does not watch the Broncos try and just pass off, oh, Bo Nix just benefiting from Sean Payton's great system and awesome coaching. He's just dumping it short and everything else is doing the rest because of the system he's in. What? That's the easiest way to tell me you're not actually watching the Broncos play. You are just inferring based on how he played at Oregon and Sean Payton being a future Hall of Fame coach, that Payton is pulling all these strings to make things super simple for Nix, and he just has to go from here to here and throw it 2 or 3 yards. No, all the metrics tell us that Bo Nix has no issue and a high success rate of pushing the ball down the field. That's not something he did a whole lot of at Oregon, and it's not because he could have been bad at it at Oregon. It's just that's not what Oregon's offense called for. And a lot of times in college, coaches are not going to design their offense about, hey, what's going to make my quarterback look good for NFL scouts? No, they're going to go, what's going to make my offense look good for me to win games? And so if the offense and the play calling and the scheme does not call for pushing the ball down the field, then they're not going to do that. They're not at the college games to help boost a player's draft stock. They are there to win games. So it takes, a very keen eye for coaches and scouts to go, even though this is a player that hasn't been asked to do a whole lot of this, which in this case, this is throwing the ball down the field, kudos to Sean Payton and this Broncos scouts team and coaching staff for recognizing and noticing, hey, even though Nix was not a major deep ball passer at Oregon, we feel like he has that ability to him, and we are going to unroll that once he gets to the NFL. So, major round of applause, honestly, for Sean Payton for recognizing that and then coaching that up and getting that out of Bo Nix. Because for the rest of us, we didn't have that opportunity to see it when Nix was at Oregon and at Auburn. But once they got Bo Nix to Denver for his private workout, they noticed he has this ability in him. It's just not being utilized, and we are going to utilize it. So with that being said, the big question that everyone always wants to know is Bo Nix the guy? I walked into work this morning, true story, and our Raiders guy, Mitchell Renz, and his producer, Jeremy Beadling, were talking about the Broncos-Raiders game, and they were saying, honestly, Bo Nix wasn't very impressive yesterday. He's just benefiting from being in Sean Payton's offense. And I go, are you joking with me right now? I'll give you each $100 right now if you can name a single wide receiver on this team that's not named Courtland Sutton. Crickets. So yeah, Bo Nix really benefiting from having this all-star cast of receivers around him and an all-time rushing game behind him. No, wait, he doesn't. He's the second leading rusher on this team. Javonte Williams doesn't even have 500 yards, and it's Thanksgiving. And the receiving core, while it's playing very well, I mean, look at some of the other receiving cores that rookie quarterbacks have. Caleb Williams has Keenan Allen, future Hall of Famer. DJ Moore, top 10 pick Roma Dunze. Jaden Daniels throwing to Terry McLaurin. I'm not trying to throw shade at Denver's receiving core, but let's not act like Nix is working with a whole bunch of all-stars that are elevating him. No, it's the opposite. Bo Nix is elevating everyone around him. And as a rookie, that is something very, very rare to see. The other thing I just want to add here that just kind of popped in my head is Bo Nix gives me Iron Man vibes. I mean, this has nothing to do with what I've spent the last 5, 6, 7 minutes babbling on about, but does anyone else get the same feel that Bo Nix is just one tough SOB that's just never going to miss a game? I hope I don't jinx anything, but 5 years in college, FBS record for most starts by a quarterback. He just looks like a Phillip Rivers and Eli Manning that's just never going to miss a Matt Ryan, a single start pretty much in his entire career. Hopefully I don't jinx anything, but I'm not worried at all because that's just the vibe I get from watching Bo. Now, the next challenge that I want to lay out for him, because last week the challenge was, hey, beat division opponents. Something that Broncos quarterbacks have mightily struggled with since the sheriff retired. And Bo Nix, in his first season, not only beats the Raiders for the first time since they moved to Oakland or moved from Oakland to Las Vegas, but sweeps the Raiders for the first time in a decade. Primetime Bo. How does he fare over the next couple of weeks with the lights of Monday Night Football on him? A second Thursday night game. He's 1-0. That Saints game I don't think was probably his best piece of work. He wasn't bad by any stretch, but he also wasn't the reason why they won single-handedly. So how does he fare against Myles Garrett and a pretty good Browns defense? And then, of course, the Chargers on the road, a much tougher road test than the Saints were at that time especially. Now, before we get on to the other pieces of today's episode, including some injury news, so stick around for that. We've got Black Friday around the corner, Thanksgiving, of course, and right now Fanatics has an incredible sale, and I'm not kidding with you guys, on this Pat Surtain throwback jersey. Usually jerseys cost well over $100. This PS2 throwback jersey is going for under $70 right now. So if you want to treat yourself or if you wanted to give it to a family member or a friend for Christmas or any other holiday, go to chatsports.com/PS2. I put that link in the comments and description of today's video. I implore you not to put this off because these sales are going to go away in just a matter of days, and then you are going to be paying $50 or $60 more in a week if you decide you want to get a jersey after all. So use our link right now to get a whole bunch of savings. So injury updates here. Riley Moss left the game with a knee injury. It's an MCL injury. And Zach Allen, who was limited on Friday after being a full participant on Thursday with a heel injury he picked up in practice, did not play on Sunday. First missed game of the season for him. Now, Sean Payton did shed a little bit of light on these two injuries. For Zach Allen, he said, quote, "We should be fine there. I'm not going to hit any injuries today. We should be fine there." So sounds like should be fine there. It sounds like it's not going to be anything too, severe or long-term, but no guarantee he will be back for Week 13 against the Browns on Monday night. As for Riley Moss, it looked scary at first because he went down, and then all the players got around him on a knee, and so once they went to commercial, I braced myself for the cart to be on the field when we came back from commercial. Thankfully, he was walking to the tent by himself, so clearly nothing too severe, otherwise the cart would have been there for him. And Sean Payton said he almost considered putting him back in the game. So fingers crossed for both Zach Allen and Riley Moss. They are back as soon as possible because the Broncos' biggest Achilles heel, in my opinion, is probably their depth. I mean, think about the first half of that game. No Zach Allen, and man, it showed. Denver's pass rush could not get to the quarterback. Now, the second half, they turned things up a little bit. But this Broncos roster was not constructed with all of the necessary tools to put together a true playoff winning roster. What do I mean by that? Do they have loads of cap space? No, they didn't. They had the biggest dead cap hit in the NFL with Russell Wilson. Do they have a plethora of great draft picks? No, they didn't. They had a first and a third. They did not have their second round pick. So they were building a roster with one hand tied behind their back, and they put together a 7-5 ball club so far. But that roster is a little thin on top. And they just cannot afford to lose guys like Zach Allen or Riley Moss, who are both playing at Pro Bowl levels. And I mean that too. No bias, no homer here. Both those guys, if true ball knowers actually put together the Pro Bowl roster and not just your average fan, would have those guys in consideration to be the Pro Bowl this year. So hopefully, if they're unable to play on Monday night, shouldn't be the end of the world, given that after that, Denver has its bye. So if they were to miss Monday night against Cleveland, okay, you can probably, get by for 1 week, go into the bye, gives them an extra week to get healthy, come back after the bye, you play the Colts in the first of a 4-game sprint to the end of the season. One other player I just want to show some love to before we get on out of here. It's a different rookie than Bo Nix. Devaughn Vele. Vele has been, truly a blessing out of nowhere. 26-year-old rookie out of Utah. No one had heard of the guy coming into the draft for the most part. And now he's on pace, to put together another record-setting year by a Broncos rookie. He's got 361 yards. That is fourth most by a Broncos rookie wide receiver that was selected in day 3 of the NFL draft, rounds 4 through 7. Call me crazy. I think he's probably going to pass Al Denson. Sorry, Al, from that 1964 season. And he's probably going to pass Rick Upchurch as well, as he is less than 100 yards away. Now, reaching Mark Jackson is a steep climb given the amount of games left and sitting about 400 yards behind him. So he'd have to average nearly 100 yards for the next couple of weeks. But still, he's not going to be out of the question for it if he continues to play like he did on Sunday. So kudos to this staff around George Paton for finding, of course, Bo Nix in round 1, but you're supposed to hit on your round 1 picks. But how about finding Devaughn Vele, 26-year-old rookie who's got surefire hands that was compared to Marquise Colston by Sean Payton, and he's just become a safety blanket for Nix for a roster that doesn't have a safety blanket that usually teams have at the tight end position. He is just a skinny, slender tight end, and that's awesome to see for Nix having over the middle of the field. Before we sign off, just an off-the-wall question here. What is your favorite side dish on Thanksgiving? I am not a big Thanksgiving side dish traditionalist. I don't like mashed potatoes, and I don't like stuffing. And I know everyone just rolled their eyes at me like producer Reed did. So I'll go with the more basic answer. Got to have some good rolls, Hawaiian rolls specifically. Love mac and cheese. I'm just a big turkey guy. Love turkey. I'll go back for thirds for turkey. White meat, dark meat, I don't care. Before we get on out of here, I just want to show some love to the Blue and Orange Club. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel, always going above and beyond to help us during our watch parties. I don't give a buck going truly above and beyond during our last watch party. So thank you guys so much. We will be back after we'll be back for Monday, then the bye, and then the sprint to the end of the season. So more watch parties coming your way. So make sure to subscribe so you do not miss a single thing.